Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into something pretty cool today. NanoShield AM.
Oh, yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
It's this new material getting a lot of buzz. Basically, imagine surfaces that can actually fight off, like harmful bacteria and microbes.
That's the idea, built-in defense.
Exactly. So we're talking about an antimicrobial PE film, right? Made by Microbeproof and then distributed by NanoShield.
Yep, that's right.
And people are saying it could be like a total game changer.
For sure, especially in places like hospitals or anywhere hygiene is critical.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But even beyond that, I've heard about applications in food packaging.
Definitely lots of potential there.
Okay, so let's break this down. What makes NanoShield AM so special?
Well, the effectiveness is really remarkable. Lab tests show it's 99.99% effective against some common pathogens, including those nasty ones responsible for hospital-acquired infections.
Wow, 99.99%. That's incredible. We see antimicrobial products all the time, but that level of protection feels like a whole new level.
It really is, and we're not talking about a one-time effect either. NanoShield AM offers continuous protection for, get this, up to 12 months.
12 months. Seriously. So it's constantly working.
24/7, like a microscopic army on those surfaces, constantly defending against microbial invaders.
Okay, color me impressed. But how does it actually work? What's the secret sauce?
Well, Microproof has this proprietary technology, aquatic biomaterial-based antimicrobial technology, it's called. It's not just the surface coating. It's actually integrated into the material itself during manufacturing.
So it's built right in, not something applied later.
Exactly. Imagine tiny antimicrobial agents embedded throughout the whole film.
Oh, I see. And those agents, they actually disrupt the cell walls of microbes, preventing them from growing and multiplying.
Right. So it's a continuous defense mechanism, always active.
So it's not just about wiping things down. This is continuous protection, even between cleanings, especially in places like hospitals. That's a game changer. But wouldn't that kind of constant antimicrobial action wear off eventually?
That's where the durability of NanoShield AM comes in. It's got this specially engineered UV-cured hard-coated surface so it can handle the wear and tear of high-traffic areas.
So it's tough.
Really tough. Think about all those surfaces touched by tons of people every day, like door handles, elevator buttons, those touch screens, everywhere you go.
Yeah, those get grimy.
Exactly. This material can handle all that without losing its effectiveness.
Okay, but I'm picturing something super sterile looking, almost industrial.
Not at all. It's actually optically clear.
You can see right through it.
Yeah. And it's printable. So you can incorporate it into all sorts of designs and applications without making it look weird.
That's smart. So it's effective, durable, and it blends in. What are we talking about in terms of uses?
Oh, the potential applications are huge. But let's start with healthcare, since that's where infection control is so vital. Hospital-acquired infections are a big problem, and NanoShield AM could be a game changer.
In what way?
Well, think about hospital beds, medical equipment, even the touch screens in patient rooms, all equipped with this invisible shield against harmful microbes.
It sounds like it could have a massive impact on patient safety. But wouldn't hospitals already have strict cleaning protocols?
Of course, but think of this as an extra layer of protection. It's a continuous defense working in the background, even between cleanings.
Reducing the risk of those microscopic threats that could slip through the cracks, even with diligent cleaning.
You got it.
Makes sense. So enhancing existing practices, not replacing them. But it sounds like it could apply beyond just hospitals.
For sure. Think about high-traffic public spaces. Airports, schools, public transportation, any place with shared surfaces. NanoShield AM could create a safer environment, reducing the spread of germs in the whole community.
Wow, taking that hospital-level protection and bringing it into our everyday lives. It sounds like we're talking about a potential shift in how we think about hygiene and safety in general. But before we get too carried away with this invisible shield idea, let's talk about the material itself. You mentioned NanoShield AM is based on PT film. I think I've heard of that, but can you remind me what exactly PT is?
Sure. PP stands for polyethylene terephthalate. It's a type of plastic you probably encounter every day without realizing it.
Really? I'm not that familiar with different types of plastics. Where would I find it?
Well, think about those water bottles, food containers, even some clothing fibers. Those are all common uses of peat.
Oh, wow. So PT's already everywhere. What makes it so useful for so many things, and why choose it for NanoShield AM?
Pite has this unique combination of properties that makes it super versatile. It's strong, lightweight, transparent, and those are all important for NanoShield AM. But it's also resistant to heat and chemicals and acts as a great barrier against moisture and gases. So it really is a great foundation for this type of application.
Yeah, it sounds like PE was a smart choice. It's already used in so many industries, and now it's got this antimicrobial boost with NanoShield AM.
Exactly. And that familiarity with PT is actually a big plus. Since it's already so widely used and understood, adopting NanoShield AM could be much easier. Manufacturers already know how to work with it, and consumers are familiar with its properties.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like building on something we already know. But before we go any further, I'm thinking about the environment. We hear so much about plastic waste these days. Where does NanoShield AM fit into all that?
That's a really important consideration. The good news is that PET is highly recyclable, and you can recycle it multiple times without losing quality.
Okay, so it's recyclable. That's good.
Yeah.
But what about the manufacturing process for NanoShield AM? Does that have a big environmental impact?
That's something researchers are definitely looking into. But early studies suggest that the environmental footprint of making NanoShield AM is comparable to other similar materials. And as we talked about, the potential benefits, reducing waste, preventing infections, those could outweigh any initial environmental concerns.
That's good to know. It's encouraging that sustainability is part of the conversation. So we've covered a lot, the tech, the applications, the environment, but let's circle back to those cost savings you mentioned. You said using NanoShield AM could actually save money, especially in healthcare. How so?
Well, think about it. Hospital-acquired infections aren't just a risk to patients. They also put a huge financial strain on healthcare systems.
Right, because treating those infections takes more resources.
Exactly. Longer hospital stays, more meds, specialized care, it all adds up. So by preventing those infections up front, you're not just improving patient outcomes, you're cutting down on all those treatment costs.
So win-win, really.
Exactly. And that's where NanoShield AM comes in. By reducing those infections, hospitals could save millions each year.
That's a strong argument. It's not just about better hygiene. It's about a more efficient and cost-effective healthcare system.
Precisely. And it goes beyond just hospitals. What about the cost of food spoilage? If NanoShield AM helps food last longer, that means less waste and lower costs for producers, retailers, and even us.
It sounds like a ripple effect, impacting whole industries, not just safety and hygiene, but also economics and sustainability.
You got it. And we're just scratching the surface. There's so many applications, and we're only just starting to explore the benefits.
This is all really interesting, but I want to go back to some specific applications. You mentioned NanoShield AM could revolutionize orthopedic surgery. That really caught my attention. Can you say more about that?
Sure. Orthopedic surgery, joint replacements, fracture repairs, that kind of thing, it has a high risk of infection. And those infections can be really tough to treat, devastating for patients.
Yeah, an infection after surgery sounds awful.
It is. That's where NanoShield AM could be a game changer. Imagine if implants, like artificial joints or bone plates, were coated with it before surgery. That constant antimicrobial action could help prevent those infections from starting in the first place.
So potentially fewer surgeries, faster recovery times, better outcomes overall.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just implants. What about all those surfaces in hospital rooms? Bed rails, call buttons, IV poles, all potential germ spreaders. Coating them with NanoShield AM could make the whole environment safer for patients and staff.
It sounds like a totally new way of thinking about infection control. Not just reacting to problems, but actually preventing them.
That's it. And that proactive approach has even bigger implications. Antibiotic resistance is a growing global threat. Finding ways to fight harmful microbes is becoming more and more urgent.
That's a huge issue. We hear about superbugs and antibiotic resistance all the time. How could NanoShield AM help with that?
Well, if we can reduce the overall amount of microbes in environments like hospitals, it could potentially slow down the development of resistance, make it less likely for those resistant strains to emerge and spread.
So not a replacement for antibiotics, but something that supports them and keeps them effective.
Exactly. Thinking holistically and using all the tools we have to tackle this problem.
This is great. But let's switch gears for a minute and look at food safety. Earlier, you mentioned using NanoShield AM in food packaging. What did you mean by that?
Food contamination is a serious issue, leading to all sorts of problems. Food poisoning, waste, economic losses, you name it. Packaging plays a huge role in preventing contamination, and NanoShield AM could really change the game.
Like those plastic containers of pre-cut fruit at the grocery store. Could those benefit?
Absolutely. Fresh produce goes bad so quickly, and using NanoShield AM in those containers could help them stay fresh longer.
That's great for consumers and helps reduce food waste too. Any other types of food packaging that could use this?
Lots. Think about meat packaging, dairy products, those ready-to-eat meals that are everywhere. Anything prone to microbial growth.
So this could revolutionize food packaging, making food safer, reducing waste. and maybe even lowering costs for everyone.
Exactly. And NanoShield AM is so versatile. It can be added to existing packaging or even used to develop new types. The possibilities are huge.
This has been a fascinating look at NanoShield AM. It seems like it could transform so many industries. But like with all new tech, there are bound to be questions and challenges as it gets more widely used.
Yeah, for sure. There are always things to consider. It's like anything else, right?
Right. And with something like this, with so much potential, it's important to step back and look at the whole picture. What are some things we need to think about as NanoShield AM becomes more common?
Well, one thing is balance. I mean, it's great that NanoShield AM can provide this extra level of protection, but it's not a magic bullet.
Right.
It's not a reason to forget about basic hygiene.
So it's not about creating a completely sterile world.
Right. No, not at all. It's more about working with the microbial environment, managing it in a smarter way.
Using it alongside those good hygiene practices we already know.
Yeah, washing hands, cleaning surfaces, all that's still important.
Right. We don't want to become completely reliant on this one thing.
Exactly.
It reminds me of that saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Haha. Yeah. What else? Another thing to consider is the potential for, microbes to adapt.
Oh, interesting. Like becoming resistant to the antimicrobial effect.
Potentially, yeah. It's something researchers are looking at. The natural world is always changing, and bacteria are pretty good at adapting.
They find a way.
They do. So we need to study how microbes might respond to, widespread use of NanoShield AM, especially over time.
Makes sense. We don't want to create a problem where those microbes become even stronger, more resistant.
Right. It's about staying ahead of the game, monitoring, researching, adapting our strategies as we learn more.
So really, there's a lot we still don't know.
Absolutely. That's part of what makes this whole area so fascinating.
It is. So as we wrap up, what are some key takeaways you want listeners to remember?
Well, first, I want them to see the incredible potential of NanoShield AM. It really could revolutionize how we think about hygiene and safety in all sorts of areas. But also, this is really just the start. There's so much more research to be done. We need to be thoughtful, consider both the benefits and the potential challenges.
So not just blindly embracing the new tech, but being informed and having a real discussion about its future.
Exactly. But in the end, I hope people are excited about what this could mean. We're living in a time with amazing new innovations, and NanoShield AM is a great example of how science can make a real difference.
I agree. It's been great talking about this with you. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into NanoShield AM. As you go about your day, maybe you'll look at those everyday surfaces a little differently, thinking about the invisible world around us. And maybe with innovations like NanoShield AM, we can make our lives a little safer and healthier.